Ladies and gentlemen, my name is BrendenPlayz and welcome to Talking Universe Mode. This is the show where we review the pay-per-views that just took place on Universe Mode right here on BrendenPlayz. And of course, the most recent pay-per-view being the Summerslam pay-per-view. And let's be honest, it's very controversial what we saw at SummerSlam. Some are going to like it, some are going to absolutely despise it. We're going to get all into it here today. Everything that took place, everything that went down, and we're going to discuss what happened, why that happened, and what the plan and what the future could hold going forward. So, SummerSlam as a whole, we saw a couple of championship changes, including the United States Championship changing hands. Nakamura did defeat Austin Aries. We saw Becky Lynch defeat Charlotte, winning her first women's championship. And we also saw the huge match between AJ Styles and Finn Balor. We kind of expected it, to be a big one. We were wondering, could it follow up their great WrestleMania match? And it absolutely did. It was a classic matchup, perhaps a contender for match of the year. And AJ Styles, at the end of the day, got the victory. He finally beat, I would say, a very tiring Finn Balor, but he got the win and won his first championship here on Monday Night Raw, his first world championship. So a huge win for him. So we had 3 championship changes and we had a few twists and turns along the way. So certainly SummerSlam had a lot of excitement about it and plenty of newsworthy stories to go down. So like I said, we're going to get it all into it and we may as well kick it off with the big one. We'll talk about it right now. The main event, the 6-man Hell in a Cell match. It was Goldberg defending his Universal Championship against 5 of Raw's best. It was Dean Ambrose, Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, John Cena, and Seth Rollins. Every single man in this match had been a world champion at some point here in Universe Mode. That is huge. It goes to show the quality and the caliber of superstars that were in this matchup. No wonder it was, very much so billed as one of the biggest matches in Universe Mode history, just because of who was in it alone. And not only that, Hell in a Cell locking everyone in there. It was absolute chaos. The match was just utter chaos. Everyone just doing move after move after move, non-stop. It was carnage, and most of all, it was pretty brutal. We saw a lot of blood being spilled in that matchup. Dean Ambrose was an absolute mess, but we saw at the end of the day, Goldberg did get the victory by hitting Kevin Owens with the jackhammer, and the jackhammer did lead to the 1, 2, 3. Dean Ambrose had a chance to break it up, but he was about, I would say, a millisecond too late. It was so close. He could have broken that up and kept the match alive, but instead, he took his opponent out. He decided to go to the top rope and kind of brag. Hey, I'm going well. Look at me. Meanwhile, whilst he was, too worried about the crowd and getting a reaction, and the crowd were booing him, behind him was Goldberg, who hit the jackhammer on Kevin Owens, and Dean Ambrose turns around and panics and tries to get there in time, but couldn't make it. So Dean Ambrose made an ultimate mistake, and Goldberg certainly capitalized. We spoke about it in the match itself. We spoke about the fact that realistically, to win a Hell in a Cell match with 6 of the absolute best locked inside, you just have to pick one opportunity. You just have to wait to a point in the match where everyone's down, and then you got to hit someone with your best move and hope you get 3 seconds where there's no one that's going to get in there and interrupt you. And Goldberg barely got 3 seconds. It was just 3 seconds that happened. So on another day, Dean Ambrose doesn't go to the top rope. He doesn't, pander to the crowd. Instead, he decides to break that pinfall up, and the match continues, and who knows where that could have been. Now, of course, the stipulation for this match as well was that if Goldberg did lose, he would be gone from the WWE. His contract would not be re-signed. Of course, he's negotiated a brand new contract that was, signed by Goldberg, and all it was waiting for was this signature of the Raw General Manager, Christian. But for Goldberg to get that signature, he had to win that match. That was the stipulation. He had to retain the championship in the Hell in a Cell. He didn't have to walk out of SummerSlam as champion, as we'll speak about in a moment's time, but he had to win that match, and he did. So what this means is now Goldberg does retain his championship. He now gets that new contract, which features a pay rise, a bonus. He gets more money in his contract. He was already the highest paid superstar in Universe Mode history. Now he can slap on even more money to that contract. Over $1 million Goldberg is getting paid. And with a salary cap for Monday Night Raw of $10.5 million, Goldberg, taking up a big portion of that salary cap. So all towards one man, and now he's getting even more So Goldberg has to deliver. He has to step up and be, the big star, and he's certainly proven to be that. He continues to win and find ways to get the championship around his waist at the end of the day. So Goldberg does get obviously that new contract. The other stipulation in the contract that Goldberg negotiated was he gets a special stipulation of his choosing going forward. He can make one major change to anything he wants going forward. So what that means, maybe the next pay-per-view, which will be No Mercy, maybe Goldberg can pick the stipulation for the match. Maybe Goldberg can have a special guest referee. Maybe Goldberg can, obviously he brought back Kevin Nash to help him out, and we'll speak of that in a moment. Maybe he can, get Kevin Nash in his corner at the next title defense. I don't know. Goldberg can make one major change, and we don't know what that will be, but he will decide what that is going forward. So that's up his sleeve. He can activate that at any time he wants. The only thing he cannot do is authorize himself a championship match. So that is the only stipulation there. So he can't just give himself a title or just give himself an opportunity at the championship, but maybe he can make a tweak to a matchup or give himself some kind of advantage over an opponent. That's the negotiation that's gone down. So Goldberg able to get that in his contract. So kudos to him. But let's talk about the afterwards. Samoa Joe, the ending afterwards, the ending of SummerSlam. Very controversial. Some of you absolutely despise it, what went down. But what did go down is that Samoa Joe decided to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase. Now, Samoa Joe was a part of this locker room revolt. So many superstars in Raw fed up with Goldberg. The most notable being Seth Rollins, who said he's going to do whatever it takes to make sure that Goldberg does not win. He doesn't care who wins it, as long as it's not Goldberg. Anybody but Goldberg. Now, obviously, that didn't happen. But Seth Rollins, heavily a part of that revolt, as was John Cena and Kevin Owens. The other man was Samoa Joe. Now, Samoa Joe had the ace up his sleeve. He could come in and cash in Money in the Bank anytime, any place. And he could use that to his advantage to try and win the championship. And now, there really is no better time to cash in Money in the Bank than after a Hell in a Cell match. And he did that. But when he cashed in, he gave the briefcase over to the referee. The referee said it's official, it's a done deal, the match is on. The theme song of Kevin Nash, the NWO theme song, hits the arena, and out comes Kevin Nash. He stands on the apron and he talks some trash to Samoa Joe, distracting him. Joe had his head turned, was focused on Kevin Nash. Goldberg kicked the teeth down to Samoa Joe's throat, hit the spear, a jackhammer. But to Samoa Joe's credit, he got up after the jackhammer straight away. Obviously being quite fresh, but then the second jackhammer was just too much for him to handle. And boom, boom, boom. All those moves in a short sequence of time. And then Goldberg was able to retain his championship again, mainly due to the Kevin Nash distraction. Now, the question is, was it fair? Was it a fair match? Now, I don't know. The referee did say it was legitimate. He did say that the cash-in did take place, so I would have to assume that Samoa Joe has lost his briefcase. But was it fair? I mean, Samoa Joe was quite clearly distracted by Kevin Nash. Now, was that fair? Did Samoa Joe get a fair opportunity to cash in his Money in the Bank? Now, obviously, you could say, well, it's not fair for Goldberg to begin with. It's not, because that's the stipulation of Money in the Bank. You can cash in anytime, any place. But the match itself needs to be a legitimate match. It needs to be fair. Now, we saw last year, when Daniel Bryan cashed in, The Undertaker interfered and screwed over Daniel Bryan, costing him his Money in the Bank opportunity. Now, that was very controversial as well, and arguably, that was, less fair than what took place here at SummerSlam. And Daniel Bryan did get an opportunity for the championship later on, but certainly didn't have that huge advantage that he had over Kevin Owens on that match when that took place. So, it's a similar situation here, but I guess Kevin Nash didn't directly get involved in the match. He just came out to spectate, as he would probably say, and Samoa Joe got distracted and Goldberg took advantage. So, I guess you could say it's Samoa Joe's fault. He made the mistake, and maybe that's, why this went down. But we'll have to wait and see. I'm sure the Raw General Manager Christian, wherever he is, I think he's still, he's been missing ever since Goldberg hit him with a jackhammer. He might be a little bit pissed off to see what that happened, and he might have something to say about it. But certainly there has to be some kind of repercussion for Goldberg, using Kevin Nash to help him out. And Goldberg did say that he needed some insurance. He needed backup, and it's fair because, you know, as we said, 4 of Raw's best, 5 if you know include Dolph Ziggler, who, you know, Dolph Ziggler's had one eye on the US Championship and one eye on the Universal Championship, so it's hard to say Dolph Ziggler is all in on this revolt. But for the sake of the conversation, we'll say these 4 superstars are all, you know, very much so heavily invested in this, all coming after Goldberg, all want to take him down, so you can't really blame Goldberg for trying to recruit someone to help him out, and there's not many people that really want to help him, so he had to call upon a man who, well, ended his streak back in WCW, a man that he hasn't really had the greatest relationship with, but I guess someone who maybe wants just to help out. Maybe he's fed up with the disrespect shown to Goldberg after, you know, Goldberg's made his big comeback and nobody's really liked seeing him, nobody's really respected him. He's been running through everyone, trying to injure everyone, so Goldberg's made no friends. But maybe Kevin Nash has respected Goldberg for making this big return, and he's come out to lend a helping hand. But at the end of the day, it's meant that Goldberg has retained the championship, and I think there's one very pissed off Samoa Joe. So if we do see Kevin Nash again, well, let's just say Samoa Joe will be making a appearance shortly after. I can guarantee you that. But moving along now, we'll kick off the rest of the discussion. We'll kind of go from the beginning to the end. Leading off, we had the United States Championship match, Shinsuke Nakamura versus Austin Aries. And the stipulation was that the Big Show, if he got involved, then Austin Aries would automatically lose his championship. It was the fair contest that Nakamura had been looking for. And Nakamura got the victory, hit the Kinshasa, and pinned Aries 1-2-3, winning back the championship. And that will be Nakamura's second US Championship reign. Of course, his first one was the second longest reigning championship reign of all time. This one, we'll have to wait and see. But the interesting note here was Dolph Ziggler, after the match, came out to celebrate with Nakamura. He threw Aries out of the ring because obviously, you know, Ziggler's been involved with Nakamura backstage, helping him out when Big Show and Aries trying to ambush Nakamura. Dolph Ziggler's come along and helped out Shinsuke, and he's even beaten Austin Aries fair and square recently on Raw. So certainly Nakamura may have some competition in Dolph Ziggler if they want to go that way, but it seems as though they have formed an alliance and a friendship, which is good to see. You know, obviously Aries has had some help in the Big Show, and well, you know, Ziggler's come along and given a helping hand to Nakamura, so that's great for Nakamura, and we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. And obviously Ziggler missed out on winning the Universal Championship, so now maybe he decides to challenge for the US Championship. We'll have to wait and see. He arguably could be the number 1 contender after winning the match against Aries. He beat the champion. Now, obviously Aries is no longer the champion. Does that put him still in contention? Hard to say. Will have to be one for the GM to decide, but obviously Ziggler will have some kind of role to play, I'm sure, at some point in the US Championship picture. Now for Austin Aries, he got beat fair and square, but probably will get a rematch. Obviously has a rematch clause in his contract after being a champion. You know, losing the championship, you do deserve another opportunity, so it'll be another decision for the GM to make whether or not he does deserve that chance. And I gotta say he does. He's obviously been a good champion before that. You know, obviously maybe, you know, one bad night, so I'd say Aries does deserve another shot, so I'll have to wait and see if he gets that on Raw, or maybe he'll get that at the next pay-per-view, No Mercy. Moving along from that, we had the Smackdown Tag Team Championship match. It was the Hype Bros versus Riot KO, Randy Orton and Rhino. And I gotta say, this is one of the better tag matches I've seen in quite some time in terms of the performance by the Hype Bros. Zack Ryder just would not quit. He just kept on fighting, despite Rhino and Randy showing a lot more aggression in this matchup, showing a different side of them, more of a darker, meaner side to them. And obviously, they did retain the championship. And afterwards, we certainly saw the darker side of them. They attacked the Hype Bros with steel chairs. Now, I don't know why they did this. I guess it's a sign that, hey, you know, we're not the jokes. You know, I think people still believe that, you know, they're not a serious tag team. They still believe that this is just a short-term thing, and they'll, you know, turn on each other soon enough. But it seems to me that this is just I guess those two solidified themselves as the top team on SmackDown. They've, you know, beaten the Hype Bros, and obviously in a great contest. But to me, it's the team of Riot KO sending a message to everyone saying, we are the real deal, and we'll do whatever it takes to win these championships. And That's a scary thing. Rhino and Randy are two very dominant individuals. They've come together and becoming a really good tag team. So we'll have to wait and see how long this plays out. How long can they kind of last as a tag team? But they're certainly going all in right now. They're certainly proving to be a legitimate team. And you have to say the Hype Bros will want to get some revenge. You don't just get shot in the back with the steel chairs and want to, roll over and let, someone else have a turn. They're going to want to come back and get a rematch, so we're going to have to wait and see if they can earn themselves another shot at RKO, and hopefully they do get those opportunities, because I tell you what, the Hype Bros, their performance was great. Certainly Zack Ryder was a fighter, no doubt about that, but RKO are getting very dangerous, and if they can continue on this path, they may be unbeatable. The next matchup, we saw a bit of a grudge match here between Charlotte and Becky Lynch, two former friends fighting it out. And of course, this match we saw Becky Lynch winning the Women's Championship for the first time in Universe Mode. A big moment for her after, well, a year of being on the main roster, a year of fighting, a year of scratching and clawing. She finally gets her opportunity, one-on-one, fair and square, and she gets the win. Now, she did lose to Charlotte back at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, one-on-one. And after the match, of course, Charlotte turned her back on her friend by attacking her after the match, sending a message to Becky Lynch and the rest of the women's division. So, I guess Charlotte has kind of proven that she doesn't care about friendship anymore. She's all about herself, all about winning the championship, but it came back to bite her in the back because Becky Lynch did get the win in the end. So a massive victory for Becky Lynch, a great moment for her, and it was a true valiant effort, and she looked great. She performed excellent, and I'm sure she'll be a great champion going forward. I guess for Lynch, going forward, obviously Charlotte will want a rematch. And then, of course, Sasha Banks. She's been involved in the title picture. She'll step up. Alexa Bliss. But I guess the big one will be Nia Jax, who recently made her debut at Bragging Rights. I think Nia Jax could be the next contender. She's stomped through a few of the women so far on Raw and SmackDown already. And I think Nia Jax could be the one to step up. And if that's the case of Becky Lynch, wow, look out. Because Nia Jax, she teamed up with Becky Lynch at Bragging Rights, I think as a way to get back at Charlotte after losing at WrestleMania to Charlotte. But she showed no allegiance to Becky Lynch. She attacked her afterwards, took her out. So it's quite clear to me that Nia Jax is all about the championship. And anyone who's in her way, she's going to, take them down. So there's a lot of big names all gunning now for Becky Lynch. So we'll have to wait and see if Becky Lynch can beat them, or we have another new women's champion. We then saw Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt fight it out in a match that has been building for months now, ever since around WrestleMania time, where the dissension began between the Wyatts and Braun Strowman. It was Braun Strowman, the two-time Intercontinental Champion, taking on the two-time champion, former champion Bray Wyatt, the leader of the Wyatt family versus the outcasts of the Wyatt family in Braun Strowman. And it was a quickish match. It was a close one. Bray Wyatt hit the Sister Abigail, but Strowman did kick out. Braun Strowman hit the running power slam to take down Bray and beat him. So very close at times, but in the end, Strowman too big, too strong, and finally moves on from the Wyatt family. He can finally begin the next chapter of his career. He's beaten the Wyatt family, he can move along to something else, and that's exciting for Braun Strowman. But I guess I just wanted to kind of discuss here, who's the future opponents for this IC Championship for Strowman? Who can step up to take on Strowman? Now, obviously, the Wyatts have kind of been there and done that. So, apart from them, I guess some names we could think about is Hideo Itami. He's obviously been quite excellent since arriving to SmackDown after the draft. He obviously beat Chris Jericho in that big feud. Hasn't had many opportunities since, but still continues to be in good touch. Baron Corbin, another big man that could match up a little bit in size with Braun Strowman, and he's been up there in the mix as well. He's been a little bit up and down. His victories haven't been that consecutive. He's been a bit, wins and loss. So we'll have to wait and see if he can build that consistency that he needs. Cesaro, a former champion, another opportunity for him to kind of show us what he can do. He's been excellent, and I really believe Cesaro will be another champion someday, whether that be the IC or world title. So this is another good opportunity now for Cesaro to get back in the mix, and if he gets there, he'll be tough to beat. And he's someone that, despite the lack of size, could at least match up with Braun Strowman in terms of the power, because you know, Cesaro is very, very strong, and he could pick up Strowman, and he could throw him around the ring as well, so that'll be exciting to see. A couple other names, Chris Jericho, the veteran. He could get himself back in the mix there and challenge for that championship. Obviously, as we said a moment ago, the Hideo Itami thing, he didn't quite get the win there, but Jericho, former world champion, a proven performer, and another opportunity there for him to shine. So there's plenty of opportunities. Sami Zayn could think about going down and taking on Strowman. It's a tough match for Sami Zayn, still heavily involved in the world title picture, which we'll get into in a moment, but that's an option for him. But plenty of good contenders, good challenges on the SmackDown roster. And of course, you know, the newest member of SmackDown as well, Apollo Crews. He could even get an opportunity as well. So he might think about heading over and getting himself in the mix there and trying his hand and seeing how he goes. So we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be lots of competition there for Strowman. As well as that, it was our Raw Tag Team Championship match. We saw Gallows and Anderson defend against The New Day. The second time this match has happened in recent times. And of course, The New Day were very hard to beat. It was an Elimination Tag Team Championship match. A late adjustment there. It was a late change by the Raw GM Christian, who decided to give this match that stipulation just to spice things up a little bit further. And obviously, The New Day were good. The New Day were good, but they lost Big E early on, very early on, and Kofi Kingston had to fight all by himself. And at times, he had opportunities where he could have. And to be honest, if the club had lost a member first, I think they lose. Because that handicap environment, that one-on-one situation, anything like that, that's certainly Kofi Kingston and Big E's realm. That one-on-one situation, because Kingston and Big E, both very successful single superstars, whereas the club, very successful tag team. So Kofi had to have been able to eliminate Carl Anderson by hitting that Trouble in Paradise. Maybe the New Day are tag team champions, but instead, Carl Anderson ducked underneath the Trouble in Paradise, got the tag, Magic Killer, that's it. But of course, the major moment that happened was afterwards when Luke Gallows got on the mic and said, "Me and Carl Anderson are looking for competition. We beat everyone there is to beat on Raw. We want another, we want another match. We want to defend our championships right here, right now. We want to take on another team. We want some more competition. Who is it going to be?" And of course, the big moment. Out came the Hardy Boys. Matt and Jeff Hardy came out, accepted the challenge, but then Gallows and Anderson walked away. They said, "Nope, we didn't expect this. We're not doing this." They refused. Maybe they thought it could be the Usos again, a team they've already beaten, or the American Alpha, someone that they've been familiar with, and maybe they feel more comfortable in taking them on. But it was a big surprise. They weren't expecting it, and Matt and Jeff Hardy came out, made their appearance, and officially a part of the Raw roster. They have both signed deals to Raw, and they will be a part of the Raw roster going forward. And of course, with that bragging rights bonus to the salary cap for Raw, that is what they use that bonus on. They use that bonus to get the signatures of Matt and Jeff Hardy. So that's a big, big get for Raw, and that could be huge for them going forward. And of course, when that match will be, the next pay-per-view No Mercy, will we see Matt and Jeff Hardy take on the club? They'll have to start getting themselves in contendership, and they'll have to start getting some wins, of course, but it would be a huge match. And the club, their time could be ticking as tag team champions. I think the Hardy Boys are very, very good, and they look good. Even at SummerSlam, they looked as though they were in good shape, ready to go, and we saw the retreat of the club. So even they are a little bit fearful right now. And finally, for SummerSlam, we saw the main event of AJ Styles and Finn Balor for the WWE Championship, and a terrific matchup between the two. As we said earlier on in the show, it was AJ Styles who picked up the victory, ending the one-year reign of Finn Balor. It was one of the, you'd have to say it's the best reign you've ever seen in Universe Mode, hanging on to the WWE Championship for a whole year, SummerSlam to SummerSlam. I don't know how he did it, but it was quite clear in this match that Finn Balor was just struggling a little bit. He got beaten down at bragging rights by Goldberg and AJ, and he had to take a few weeks off. He came back and had a match against Bray Wyatt, and he looked pretty good in that match against Bray, but just in this match against AJ, you could just see he was really tiring towards the end, just struggling to kind of, get to his feet and keep the offense going. So he just struggled that little bit. And that struggle was the detriment to him. And of course, he made some really strange decisions. Of course, he hit the 1916, didn't go for the cover. A few really weird mistakes that you wouldn't normally see from Finn Balor. You just felt as though he wasn't on his game in that match. And afterwards, we saw him very disappointed in himself, frustrated with himself. Walked out in disappointment. It was a slow walk out, and he just looked like a tired, beaten up champion. Well, now former champion. He looked like someone who's just been through, a whole year as champion, to be fair. He has just, fought the best of the best, and maybe he just couldn't fight this last fight. And the future of Finn Balor, well, I don't know. It looks as though he could have an injury, and he could be down and out. He may not be able to come back and challenge AJ. Maybe he needs a few months to recover and rest up. If that's the case, then, well, we know Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn are two men who'll be lining themselves up to get an opportunity. We know Brock Lesnar's been around. He's obviously been out of contention after Finn Balor beat him. He might come back and want a chance. Triple H as well. He might come back and think about another opportunity. So there's some big names waiting right there already on SmackDown. Maybe Bray Wyatt. Maybe Bray Wyatt goes from Braun Strowman. He looks to elevate himself. Maybe even Braun Strowman looks to elevate himself and challenge AJ. Why not? Strowman's had a big win. He could step up. So there's plenty of big names that could think about making that transition and coming after AJ Styles and the new champion if Finn Balor is unable to do so. And that'll be very exciting and interesting to see who does step up next, because obviously AJ and Sami Zayn have had their battles. Reigns and AJ, they had a recent battle, and AJ's gotten the better of both. So maybe it's someone else. Maybe someone else new needs to make that step up and come after AJ Styles and that championship. We'll have to wait and see. But one thing is for sure, it was a huge win for AJ Styles, a great victory for him, and it was overall a very exciting Summerslam pay-per-view. Lots went down, and lots could happen. Next up is No Mercy, then we have one more pay-per-view after that, and then of course Survivor Series. Very interesting time of the year, of course, with Survivor Series. Obviously Survivor Series has the big 5-on-5 tag team match, or the big multi-man tag team match, so that's always a big part of it. The Smackdown and Raw feel could come back into it, so we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. And of course, a lot of contracts for Raw and SmackDown superstars have ended at SummerSlam. There's been a lot of negotiations, there's been a lot of superstars that have re-signed to their respective brands, but there are still a few names that haven't done that yet. There's a few names that have yet to sign for either and now considered to be free agents. So keep an eye out for that. We could even see a few names leaving Raw and heading over to SmackDown, or vice versa, or maybe our GMs look to make a big signature. We've been told that Bobby Roode was actually backstage at SummerSlam. He was a part of the SummerSlam event, and Bobby Roode was in negotiations with Christian and Edge, the general managers of SmackDown and Raw. So, maybe he makes the jump to the main roster as still the NXT champion. You'll have to wait and see. So there's lots of things that could take place in the next few months, and you'll have to keep an eye on Universe Mode, and make sure you are subscribed and continue to watch the episodes, and make sure you're notified so you don't miss another episode of Universe Mode. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening in to this edition of Talking Universe Mode. I know it's been a while since I've done one. I want to do more of them, and I hope you did enjoy this. Leave a like on it if you did. I hope you enjoyed SummerSlam despite the controversies there. If you didn't like something, you can always delete that from your mind and think about the show overall. Remember, it is a 2-hour show. So if you didn't like one particular thing, there's no reason to dislike the video if you only, didn't like one thing. I think at the end of the day, you got to think about the whole show. And I think that's something that, people don't often think about, and they just, criticize that one thing that they maybe not liked. But I will say this. If you didn't like that one thing, keep watching, because I think you're going to like what is to come. And I'm not going to spoil what is going to come, but I will say that things are going to get very interesting. And at the end of the day, you might like what you see. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you in the next episode of Universe Mode.